بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين تمام بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So we're continuing, inshallah. Welcome back to the journey to the hereafter. We finished last time. We're still going over through the major signs before the Day of Judgment. So those are the main signs. So al-alamat al-kubra, which means the major signs, as opposed to the minor signs. And we mentioned how many? Four. How many mentioned? Who was here last week? You were here last week mentioned four? Yes. What were they? Dajjal, okay, that's one of them. No, today's Ya'juj and Ma'juj. We mentioned Isa ibn Maryam. Right? And then, anything else?
The smoke, yes.
Dukhan, good.
Yes.
Dukhan. So we mentioned Dukhan. So that's three so far, right? So the fourth was Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So we're going to do that today. I'm going to change my method a little bit because if I give the same amount of details that I gave the last couple of lectures, I don't think we're going to finish in time. So I'm going to reduce it a little bit. Why do we have a restriction of time? Because people generally, it's nice to know that you're going to finish everything in 10 weeks, 12 weeks. I'm supposed to open it, right? Sometimes it's just a mental thing. As long as you see a target, it makes things easier. And so I want to finish within, this is class number what, 7? 8?
See, nobody's counting.
So leave it open-ended? No. That's not leave it open-ended. So you can accumulate. Because especially when you get into the actual resurrection, there's so many details, right? And then the hellfire, and then the Jannah, there's so many details. I'll try to save some more time to go into a bit more of those details. The signs before the hereafter are important, but for me, I feel that you should be more concerned about the other things you think about. The other descriptions, because there's also more emphasis on them in the Quran and so on things. But anyway, so today we're going to talk about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And so this is the fourth sign. We say total, how many do we have?
10.
10. Total we have? 10. 3 of them are khusuf, which means the earth kind of collapsing the earth. So there's 3 of them. It's understood as it is, so we're not going to cover those. So essentially we're going to only cover 7 signs. We mentioned 3 already, so hopefully inshallah we're going to finish 4 today. And maybe if we have time, at least start with the beginning of the Day of Judgment. Inshallah. So today we're going to talk about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned Ya'juj and Ma'juj several times in the Quran. One of them we always read every single week. And that's Surah Al-Kahf. Good. And this is talking about Dhul Qarnayn. When it was called by the people and said, Inna Ya'juj and Ma'juj mufsiduna fil ard. They are wreaking havoc. Abdullah, you need some batteries? Batteries. Get the other one. So this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that he would travel and he met people. He told him Ma'juj are spreading havoc on the earth, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had allowed the Qarnayn to build a wall, and they're behind that wall, as we know, until they close to the Day of Judgment they'll come out. Now, by the way, they are multiple more in numbers than humans. Well, they are from the humans, but they are from the sons of Adam. So Ya'juj and Ma'juj are from the lineage of Adam alayhi salam, and so are we. So they are also considered, human beings, obviously. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned this clearly to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned in a hadith. So this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned specifically, their number, how much vast of a number they are. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so this mentions Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. So on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would tell Adam, Ya Adam, ib'ath ba'th an-nar. So bring forth the people of the hellfire. And so Adam alayhi salam would say, Ma ba'th an-nar, so which means how many number are the ba'th an-nar? So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, will say, alf, right, from every 1,000, 999 are in the hellfire and 1 is in Jannah. So you can imagine that. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Adam, bring forth the people of the hellfire. So he said, what is their number? He said, from out of every 1,999 are in the hellfire, and one is in Jannah. And so when this is mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَحِينَئِذٍ يَشِيبُ الصَّغِيرُ وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتِ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا. This is directly from the Quran. And so that the young, يَشِيبُ الصَّغِيرُ, which means the young one, his hair would gray. And every pregnant woman would release from the load that is in her womb. So essentially it's almost like a miscarriage. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, فِيكُمْ أُمَّتَيْن. Right? There are two nations among you. One of them isn't there except that it made it plenty. And so the Prophet ﷺ mentioned specifically it was Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And so this kind of gives us some comfort that it is from Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Usually that is the larger the number of people in the hellfire as opposed to our lineage. Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned in the Quran, I mentioned the wall, but also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, before they've done judgment, He said, فَإِذَا جَاءَ الْوَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّاءً وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. And so that wall would remain until the day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it and it will become destroyed. And the Prophet ﷺ had already told us, and he woke up one day, he was frightened. And he woke up to his wife, he said, وَيْلٌ لِلْعَرَبِ مِنْ شَرٍ قَدْ اقْتَرَبَ. Woe to the Arabs from an evil that has approached. And so they said, what is it? He said, today there's a hole this big in the wall of Ya'juj and Ma'juj that got formed. And he did this. He said, a wall, like a gaping hole. And then the Prophet ﷺ in another hadith, he reiterated. He said, every single day, they start digging through the wall. They kind of go above it, so they're trying to go through it. And so every time, yes?
Time out, I was busy with the kids. So what is Ya'juj and Ma'juj? Is it like a sect?
Lineage from the son of Adam, from the sons of Adam. So they're human beings. But they're a lineage from Adam alayhi salam.
We are also lineage from
Yes.
Adam. And
But
they
you know,
have
he had kids.
Uh-huh.
So we are a lineage from some of these kids. These are from another group of kids.
Okay.
And so they have different features, different characteristics. But they're still human. It seems that their numbers are much larger. They have different features. They're extremely strong. Maybe because of their large numbers, but we're going to get a bit more details about that.
Are they still in existence?
Of course they are.
So when you say there's a wall in the belief.
No. A real physical wall
Oh.
that is blocking them in a certain area. Now people ask, I know this comes up, with all the, yes?
Just for the text image, because of what they see in the media about the alien and abnormal human being size and stuff like that, that goes with their imagination. These people are like that, or what?
No. They're not aliens. They're human beings that were created, and they do propagate. They have offsprings and so forth. And they do exist until this day.
They have Trump.
I don't think he's one of them. Because we'd be in trouble if he is one of them. But he's not. But anyway, but they do exist really. And so I know the question usually comes up with all the satellite imagery, how can we not find them? It's not that weird. You have to understand this is within the abilities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I'm just going to give you a simple example. Until this day, one day they found this lost tribe in the jungle they never knew about. So there's an entire village of a population of people. They have never met other populations. That they found them lost in the middle of somewhere. So it is possible. It's not that it's not possible. Just because we have the satellite imagery doesn't mean that we can find everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wills, it will happen. Similar example, for example, Bani Israel were lost in Sinai for how many years? 40 years. Okay? If you want to think about it, if they just walk through a straight line, wouldn't they just get to the other side? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed, and He dictated that they'll be lost for 40 years, and it will happen. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that these people will be hidden behind that wall that is made out of different types of metals, iron and copper. And so it's very difficult to dig through it. But anyway, the Prophet he had mentioned that every single day they try to dig through it. And so they will get almost like a hole, and they will say tomorrow will continue, but they don't say inshallah. And so they wake up in the morning, and it's sealed back again. until one day they'll say, inshallah. And this is when things will start happening. And we obviously know that we mentioned Isa ibn Maryam. They will come out when? After Isa ibn Maryam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned this in the Quran. He said, حَتَّى إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. And so حَتَّى إِذَا فُتِحَتْ, if Ya'juj and Ma'juj, like, they will open, like the gates will open for them. وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ, from every elevation they'll come down. Talking about their large and huge numbers. And this will happen at the time of Isa ibn Maryam. After he had killed the Dajjal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bring revelation to Isa ibn Maryam that a group of people from the sons of Adam have come out, and he would tell them you have no abilities to fight them. And so what you should do is you should take all the human beings into the highest places of elevations you can to protect yourself. And so this is mentioned in a hadith, a very long hadith in Sahih Muslim. And I'm going to read it quickly for you because it has a very beautiful description of just everything that's going on. And so the Prophet ﷺ, this is from the hadith of Nawas ibn Sam'an, and it's a very long hadith, it's Sahih Muslim. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي عِيسَى ibn Maryam قَوْمٌ قَدْ عَصَمَهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْهُ. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, then Isa ibn Maryam would come to a group of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had protected them from the Dajjal, essentially. فَيَمْسَحُ عَلَى وُجُوهِهِمْ, he wiped on their faces, وَيُحَدِّثُ بِدَرَجَاتِهِمْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ, and he will tell them about their levels in heaven. فبينما هو كذلك إذ أوحى الله إلى عيسى إني قد أخرجت عبادا لي لا يدان لأحد بقتاله. So as this is happening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reveal to Isa ibn Maryam, I have brought out a group of people that no one will be able to challenge them or beat them in fighting. So they have no ability to fight against them. فحرز عبادي إلى الطور. So protect my servants, take them to protect them from going to a mountain of الطور. وَيَبْعَثُ اللَّهُ يَأْجُوجَ وَمَأْجُوجَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send Ya'juj and Ma'juj وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ, from every high elevation they come down. And so the first of them will pass by a بُحَيْرَةَ بَرِيَّةٍ, will pass by a lake. So the first one will pass by a lake and they start drinking from it. And so this is a large lake that actually exists until now, has a very pure, nice water in Palestine. And so they'll come out and the first one will pass and they'll start drinking. By the time the last one passes, he'll say, wait a second, there used to be a lake here. This tells you the large, this is just an image of the large number they are. They drink so much from it that it just completely dries out. فَيَشْرَبُونَ مَا فِيهَا وَيَمُرُّ آخَرُ فَيَقُولُ لَقَدْ كَانَ بِهَذِهِ مَرَّةٌ مَاءٌ. And then it says وَيَحْصُمْ نَبِيُّ اللَّهِ عِيسَى وَأَصْحَابَهُ. And so the Isa alayhi salam and his friends with him, companions of the believers, will be surrounded in a certain area. Until one of them so the Isa ibn Maryam and the people with him would make dua. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send upon these people, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, النغف في رقابهم. النغف is a type of worm that afflicts camels. Okay, that kind of just bores them and kind of eats them. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send that to their necks. So it's almost like a disease and affliction. فَيُصْبِحُونَ فَرْصًا. So they wake up being deceased. So essentially who's going to kill them? Who's going to kill them?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will send something to kill them. And the hadith continues to say that they will die because of it. كَمَوْتِ نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. Almost like all of them all of a sudden will die all at once. Now, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to narrate from another hadith. One of the Muslims will ask, who's a brave soul that would go and check out what happened. And so one of them goes down and he will find just corpses all over the place. And he will come up and back and tells them that they have died. And so Isa ibn Maryam and the people with him will come to the ground, and so they would not find an inch in the ground except that they're just, corpses are just over the place. And of course, when a corpse dies, it becomes very, foul smell, just not very nice. It's rotten, and things will dissolve, and so it's not exactly becomes very habitable. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He would do is that after Isa ibn Maryam and the people make dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send birds, okay? And the Prophet described ka'anak al-bukht, so they'll have long necks, the same as the necks of the camels. Okay? So very long camels. And what they'll do is they'll carry these corpses. So these obviously birds are large enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends, they'll carry these corpses and they'll throw them where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. We don't know where they're going to go. The Prophet said, حَيْثُ شَاءَ اللَّهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, He will throw them, And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send a rain, such extensive rain, that it really just cleanses the entire ground. Okay? And the Prophet is described as يَتُخَكَ الزَّلِقَ. الزَّلِقَ essentially means that, how should I describe this? Almost very smooth. Okay? Something that is very smooth.
Like mud?
Like mud, yes. Smooth like, actually no, الزَّلِقَ, which means smooth like a mirror. Madar is mud. So the Prophet in the hadith he says, فَيَصُلُ الْأَرْضَ وَلَا يَكُنْ مِنْ بَيْتٍ مَدَرٍ وَلَا وَبَرٍ. So there isn't a house that is made out of mud or made out of wool, essentially skin. فَيَصُلُ الْأَرْضَ حَتَّى يَتُوهَا كَالزَّلِقَ. So it will wash the ground until it leaves it completely clean, as if when you just clean an entire mirror, it's just completely shiny. And so this is what's going to happen. And it's indicated perhaps the reason that we're unable to fight against it is just because they're a large number. Now there's other hadith that mention of how arrogant they are, is when they spread in the entire earth, they say that we have killed the people on the earth, there's only people left in the sky that we would kill them. And so they will throw an arrow in the sky and come back down bloody. And they'll say, here, look, we killed the people of the heavens. And this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send those worms that would kill them. So that is Ya'juj and Ma'juj.
So Ya'juj and Ma'juj is the name of a being, a sect.
Tribe.
Tribe.
Ya'juj and Ma'juj.
So they're not two brothers or anything, right?
No.
Oh.
Not just two human beings. They're just Ya'juj and Ma'juj, tribe.
Tribe.
Ya'juj and
The
Ma'juj.
name of the tribe is Ya'juj
Yes,
and
Ya'juj and Ma'juj.
Ya'juj and Ma'juj.
Because maybe their forefathers were those individuals. For example, Quraysh, they're named after Quraysh.
Right.
And his real name is?
Abdullah.
No. Fihr. Fihr.
Fear.
Fihr.
Fear.
Oh, I guess you know that. So this is the name of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm not going to test you what's the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, although I should. You should tell me the name until at least Fihr. Because this is where all Quraysh came from this individual. Okay? There is a dispute. They say, some people say Malik, so it's Malik and the Fihr, right? So some people say Fihr, some people say Malik, but the majority are from Fihr. This is the father of the tribe, and the entire tribe of Quraysh came from his descendants. So the descendants of Ya'juj and Ma'juj came from Ya'juj and Ma'juj.
It's in the word is between the two mountains, right? So I always try to figure out, suppose these are the two mountains, so they are this way or this way?
Does it
And where is
matter?
the wall?
Does it matter?
Yeah, but where is the wall? I mean, in
She wants
between?
to
Between the two mountains.
Between,
So you wonder what's on the other side. Obviously it's sealed.
yeah, it seems so. If this way, then we fill the gap. This way. I always confused.
It's just a wall blocking them from coming out.
Okay.
They're behind the wall, that's all we need to know. How does it look, how high, which mountains, Allah. Right, now, there
It
are
could be a
certain...
wall of anything. Our
No,
mind
so-
thinks
so-
of walls.
Atuni Zubar al-Hadid, so this is what the kafir. Atuni Zubar al-Hadid. Zubar al-Hadid, which means pieces of iron. Okay. فَأُفْرِغْ عَلَيْهِ قِطْرًا, which means he also poured on top, after he lined it, he poured on top of it copper.
So it could be an ore as well, right? An iron ore is like a mountain, right? An iron
There
ore.
are irons mounted, but it was described as a wall with pieces of blocks, pieces just being put, and then filling the gaps was literally through molten copper to fill in the gaps. So it's completely
That's
solid.
how detailed the description is.
Yes.
Oh.
So the Kahf, right?
سورة كهف.
أتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا فرغ حتى إذا سوى. نعم.
And the other hadith, Rasul Sallallahu says, دخل Rasul Sallallahu يوم فزعا.
ويل للعرب من يوم you mentioned it. You missed it. Yes. You mentioned it. And so he said, this is the hadith where the Prophet said, woe to the Arab from an evil that has approached. Today there is a hole in the wall of Ya'juj and Ma'juj that happened this big. So we mentioned that. Alright, now, before I move to the next sign, there are a few things that are going to happen. Those aren't from the major signs, but just the situation of the Day of Judgment is not going to happen until these things happen. Now, among them is, as they mentioned in Arabic, they say, دروس الإسلام ورفع القرآن وفناء الأخبار. So three things would happen. دروس الإسلام, which means Islam will cease to exist. وَرُفِعَ الْقُرْآنِ, which means the Qur'an will be elevated. So it will not exist in the earth anymore. وَفَنَاءِ الْأَخْيَارِ, people who are pious or Muslims will also cease to exist. Because the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned that the Day of Judgment, the blowing in the the trumpet will not happen except on the worst of humans. And so this tells you after this obviously after Isa ibn Maryam comes and the spread of Islam, and people are like, there's alhamdulillah a lot of bounties and people are living in raghad, in bliss and everything, so much barakah. Things will come back to as it was. And so the Prophet ﷺ, this is Ibn Majah and al-Hakim, authentic narration. The Prophet ﷺ said, يَدْرُسُ الْإِسْلَامِ كَمَا يَدْرُسُ وَجْهُ الثَّوْبِ. So Islam will yadrus, which means will be worn out, gone, right? How you wear out, clothing after you use it for quite a long time, it just wears out and dissolves. حتى لا يدري ما صيام, until people don't know what is fasting, what is praying, what is nusuk, what is hajj, or what is sadaqah, ولا يسرى على الكتاب إلا في ليلة. And in one night, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be elevated. And so there will be لا يبقى في الأرض منه آية. There will not be a verse from it in the earth. وتبقى طائف من الناس, and a group of people will remain, الشيخ الكبير والعجوز, the elderly male and female, يقولون, they will say, أدركنا, we have seen, آباءنا, our fathers, saying this word, لا إله إلا الله. And so we say it. Now these individuals still have a speck of iman in them, because they understand لا إله إلا الله. Now, the remainder of other people, obviously they don't know what Tawheed is. The majority don't know it. Now we just mentioned also that, and also on the Day of Judgment, those few remainders, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take their souls. And I think I mentioned this before, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send, so this is Sahih Muslim, Abu Hurairah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send a wind, right? A breeze. يبعث الله ريحا من اليمن, from Yemen, ألين من الحرير, it is softer than silk. فلا تدع أحدا في قلبه مثقال ذرة إيمان إلا خلطه. It does not leave a person that has a speck of iman in his heart, except that it will take his soul. So now we covered the three things. Islam is gone, the Quran is elevated, and there is no more believers. That is when the Day of Judgment would occur upon these individuals. Yes?
Non-believers will be there.
Non-believers will be there. Obviously, there's human beings, obviously, but those are the worst of the human beings. Now, since we mentioned that there is very, Islam is the hadith, there's no salah, there's no siyam, so obviously nobody's going to do hajj anymore. Is that right? Nobody do hajj. And so in Musnad Abi Ya'la, Musaddaq al-Hakim, Abi Sa'id he said, لا تقوم الساعة حتى لا يحج البيت. The Day of Judgment does not come unless the people stop doing hajj. It is the reason. Now that being said, obviously when this happens, people will return to the time of ignorance. Not just that, they'll also start worshipping idols back again. This is going to be that bad. They're going to be starting worshipping idols once more. And so this is also specifically mentioned in Sahih Muslim. When Abdullah ibn Amr, he says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the night, the cold breeze, and it will there's nobody on the face of the earth will remain that has a speck of iman in his heart, except he'll be elevated. Even to the point that if you try to run away from it, it will come after you. Right? Even if you enter a mountain, it will come after you. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, فَيَبْقَى شِرَارُ النَّاسِ فِي خِفَّةِ الطَّيْرِ وَأَحْلَامِ السِّبَاعِ. And so the worst of people remain فِي خِفَّةِ الطَّيْرِ وَأَحْلَامِ السِّبَاعِ. خِفَّةِ الطَّيْرِ, which means in the, you know how a bird is not just stable, just always kind of, the least thing kind of scares it, just fidgety. وَأَحْلَامِ السِّبَاعِ means that they are, their mindset is the same as the mindset of beasts and animals, is seductive. They're always very vicious, attacking. So there's essentially, it's saying that the majority of the people around, there's a lot of anger, a lot of animosity, a lot of harm being done, and destruction. So those are the type of beings are there. But also they will not, so the Prophet said, وَلَا يَنْكُرُونَ مُنْكَرًا وَلَا يَنْكُرُونَ مُنْكَرًا وَلَا يَعْرِفُونَ مَعْرُوفًا. So they don't know anything that is good, and they don't prohibit anything that is evil. So they're just doing basically what they desire, what they want. So here's why I mentioned this hadith, because I'm talking about idol worship. فَيَتَمَثَّلَ لَهُ الشَّيْطَانِ. The Prophet said, the shaitan will come to them in the form of a human. يَتَمَثَّلَ لَهُ الشَّيْطَانِ will come to a human, and he will say, أَلَا تَسْتَجِيبُونَ? Wouldn't you answer the call? And so they say, what do you order us with? And so he orders them to worship idols. وَهُمْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ دَارَتْ أَرْزَاقِهِمْ. And in that manner, there's actually going to have a lot of wealth happening. They're going to be living in luxury, essentially. There's going to be a lot of health. وَحَسْنَ عَيْشِهِمْ, and they're having a good life. ثُمَّ نُفْخَ فِي الصُّورِ. This is when the blowing of the horn happens. In another narration, actually, the Prophet ﷺ specified that it was a Lat and an Uzza that will be re-worshipped again. You know, the people of Quraysh used to worship Lat and Uzza. They will worship it again at the end of time. But also, because of that, there will be extreme immorality. To the point that people become accustomed to it. And we can actually see some of that. Like, nowadays we see people used to do things in public that they never used to do just 50 years ago. Right? It'll get worse. The Prophet ﷺ said, "لا تقوم الساعة حتى يتسافدوا في الطريق تسافد الحمير." Right now, this is very kind of descriptive. The Prophet ﷺ, the day of judgment does not occur until the people, he said, يتسافدوا في الطريق, which means that they will fornicate in the road, similar how the donkeys, copulate. Animals, they don't shy away from copulating in public. So human beings will start copulating in public. In fact, it will be mentioned that the one who has a bit of decency will tell these people, why don't you just kind of step on the side, not in the middle of the road. You're just going to move to the side a little bit. At the time of the Sahaba, they were like, oh my God, would this happen in real? To be honest, I'm not surprised in the time we live in from what we see that this is possible. From the time we live in, I can see how this is very possible. So subhanAllah, it's just at that time they said, in dhalika lakaa'ib, is this possible? Will this happen? And so the Prophet said, yes, it will happen. And now we see how the progression of, just because of the little by little, how much we see indecency, we become very numb to it, we become accustomed to it. Our objection to it becomes less. And so then it becomes the norm. When the bad becomes the norm, then this becomes really bad. This is how we understand why the day of judgment, close to the day of judgment, people would say, hey, listen, this is haram, don't do it. They'll say, you're doing a bid'ah. What is, who said it's haram? What is this bid'ah? Right? We've been doing it for such a long time, nobody said anything. And so things will kind of, be in balance. It's not a state of balance anymore. Alright, now, at that time also, because there is no Muslims, no practice of Islam, yes, there is a dispute about this when this happened, but many of the scholars go on, have this opinion, that this is the time when the Kaaba will be destroyed. This is the time the Kaaba will be destroyed. Because there's no Hajj happening, there's no Muslims, there's no Quran or anything. Once again, there is a dispute when this would happen, but many of the scholars say that it is close to the end of time, when the Islam is being kind of perishing. And the Prophet ﷺ, he actually mentioned this clearly, and he described the person who will do it. He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and this is in Muslim Imam Ahmad, and various also narrations, and Sahih Bukhari, I'm just combining them. The Prophet ﷺ said, يُخَرِّبُ الْكَعْبَ ذُو السَّوْقَتَيْنِ فِي الْحَبَشِ. So, which means he will destroy the Kaaba. ذُو السَّوْقَتَيْن is his description. السَّوْقَتَيْن in Arabic is tasghir, which means you're minimizing. The one who has tiny legs. Now, tiny doesn't mean in this direction. Tiny just means skinny legs. Okay, small legs. So skinny legs. Fil Habasha. Habasha really means I know we describe it as Ethiopia, but really it's anything from Sudan to below it. Anything from the area of Sudan to below it. So he's from that region. يَسْلُبْهَا حُلِيُّهَا. He will steal its adornments. So the Kaaba has adornments, has treasures. He will steal it. وَيُجَرِّدُهَا مِنْ كِسْوَتِهَا. And he will steal whatever it is garment is on it. وَلَكَأَنِّي أَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِ. And as if I look at him, I see him. أُصَيْلِعًا أَفِيدًا. Usaydan, which means that he's bald. Ufaydan, which means that there's his feet, there's a wideness, a gap between his legs. يَضْرِبُ بِمَسَاحَتِهِ وَمَعْوَلِهِ. He will strike down with his axe and his tools. So he will be dismantling the Kaaba. And then another narration, the Prophet said, كَأَنِّي أَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِ أَسْوَدْ أَفْحَجْ. As if I look at him, he is dark-skinned. أَفْحَجْ, which is there's a wideness, there's a gap. So his thighs are not stuck together, there's a gap between them. يَنْقُضَهَا حَجَرًا حَجَرًا, which means he will dismantle it, a hajar, which means piece by piece, rock by rock. And so this is the dismantling of the Kaaba. Now, I didn't mention this in the major signs because these are just the events that happen. So now the last major sign we mentioned was Ya'juj and Ma'juj. The following major sign that's going to happen is the sun coming out from the West. Good. And this is clearly mentioned in the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقوم الساعة, the day of judgment does not occur until the sun rises from, it is, where its sun sets from the west. فإذا طلعت, if it comes, فرآها الناس, and people see it, أجمعين, فذاك حين لا تنفع نفس إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا. Which means once that sign happens, it's such a clear sign that it will not be accepted from a person to believe. If you are not believed, nor a person who's a believer and did not perform good deeds, his good deeds will not be accepted. So we have two types of people. We got believers and unbelievers. So when that comes out, the disbelievers, it will not be accepted from them to become believers anymore. But also within the believers, they're divided into two categories. The ones who perform good deeds and the ones who do not perform deeds. So those are the ones who perform deeds, when they see that sign, they want to perform deeds, but it will not be accepted. It's such a clear sign. Now this, by the way, one of the dangers of, some of the people, the people of Quraysh and the prior people from the other prophets, you know how they always tell us, give us a clear sign, give us a definitive evidence. This is very dangerous. And the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned this clearly in many verses, because whenever he will give you a clear sign, and you don't believe, what happens? Destruction will happen. So, for example, just on top of my head, I don't know why, because but I'll get Surah Al-Ma'idah. When the people of Isa ibn Maryam, the Nasara, what did they ask him? أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء. Ask your Lord to bring forth down for us Ma'idah, right? A feast from the heavens. So Isa alayhi salam, he said, what's wrong with you? Don't you believe? They said, yes, but we just want to eat from it and have certainty. So when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned them. He said, I will do it. But if they don't believe afterwards, then they'll have the severe suppressions. And similar with every prophet that have ever asked for them, their people ask for a clear sign. When he gives it, the problem is people don't believe. Because they're not asking for a sign, they're just asking it as in terms of a challenge. And so when Allah does it, if they don't believe, that's it. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed this ummah, and He gave the Prophet the choice. When they asked for a sign, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, if you want, I can give them a clear sign. But then, if they don't believe, then the destruction will fall. Or, I cannot give them the sign and let them live until, later on. And so the Prophet chose the second. The Prophet chose the second one. And so this is one of the things, the signs. Now, other than the sun coming out, there's also the other major sign that comes also where there no repentance will be accepted, which is the coming out of the Uruj Deb. The Deb is translated as the, I know it's translated as the beast, but Debba in the Arabic language is anything that, so a creature. Right? So I'm going to call it a creature. I know they call it beasts, but I'm going to call it the creature. So this is when the creature comes out. Now we don't know which will come out first, by the way. We don't know, is it the sun, then the creature, or the creature, then the sun? We're not quite sure. Because the Prophet he mentioned in the hadith, أَيُّهُمَا سَبَقَتْ, which one comes first, and the other one will follow. And so this will come at the time of the close to the day of judgment, where actually when there is a lot of evil spread in the earth. And goodness will be very less. And this is mentioned in the Quran, right? وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَخْرَجْنَا لَهُمْ دَابَّةً مِنَ الْأَرْضِ تُكَلِّمُهُمْ. We will bring forth from the earth. So when the word of the decree falls, we will bring forth for them a creature from the earth. What does it do? تُكَلِّمُهُمْ. Right? It will speak to them. أَنَّ النَّاسَ كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It will speak to them, saying that the people were of our verses no certain in faith. So this creature will be talking to them. But in other than that, also it's a creature not we haven't seen anything like it, so it's something that is a bit different. In some narrations, and I can't remember to be honest the authenticity of it, that it will show up somewhere in Mecca. That's one of the narrations, but I'm not quite sure of the authenticity of it. But it will do something very specific, and this is from Imam Ahmad, Imam Bukhari. It is not in Sahih Bukhari, but in another one of his other books. That Ali ibn Ja'ad would mention, the Prophet said that the dabba takhruju dabba, right? It will come out, the creature will come out, and it mentioned that tasimu ala nasi kharatimu, which means tasim, which means it will put a sign. a symbol, right? It comes really, okay. You know when you put a mark, when people sometimes put mark on their cattle?
Yeah, stamp.
What's it called?
Branding.
Brand, good, and good. That's the word I'm looking for, because it slipped my mind. It will brand people. So that beast will brand people on their noses. It will brand both the believers and the non-believers, but it will brand the believers as believers and the believers as non-believers. It will brand them. Because the Prophet said, فَتَسِمُ النَّاسَ عَلَى خَلْقِهِمْ ثُمَّ يَعْمَرُونَ فِيكُمْ حَتَّى يَشْتَرِ الرَّجُلُ الْبَعِيدَ. And so these people that God granted will live among you, and they'll have offsprings, different generations, to the point that a person will be buying a camel from a person, and he will say, I bought it from the one who has been branded. And so they will live for quite a long time.
So all are branded?
No. At that time, right? The people who live at that time, many of them will be branded, and they will live. And so the children, when they come out, they're not branded. And so there'll be several generations, to the point that when they start buying, the people who are left, they're known. Okay, this guy is the branded one. Yes?
So, I'm going back a little bit to Yajuj and Majuj. So they'll come, they'll be destroyed.
Yes.
After they get destroyed,
There'll be 40 years of living with Isa ibn Maryam,
yes.
and then
they'll
Islam
die.
will be strong, but then Islam will,
So after he dies.
after he dies.
Then you're talking about the wind will come, take the soul. Oh no.
So I did not go exactly in the same order.
Okay, that's what I was worried about.
I'm just talking about, because I was just talking about the atmosphere, what's going to happen close to the Day of Judgment.
Okay, so the idol worshipping resumes after Isa alayhi salam.
After Isa alayhi salam.
Okay.
And after almost like
So
Islam
then
is
most of
becoming
the
its
Muslims are going to
weakest.
be gone.
Sorry?
So most of the Muslims are going to die when Isa alayhi salam dies.
No, so
Then
they're
you said
over
there's some
time.
believers.
It will be over time.
Over time, generations will
Over
stop
time, generation
reciting
to generation,
Quran, and the Quran
until-
will
exactly.
leave.
Until people don't know what Islam is anymore, and our forefathers used to say La ilaha illallah, so there'll be no verse left in the Quran. All these. But still, these people say La ilaha illallah, they still have a speck of belief. So they'll be rescued from the horrors of the Day of Judgment. So they're not going to witness that. So they'll be relieved from that. But prior to that, obviously there's going to be some believers. This is when the Dabba will come out, and the sun, and when the creature will come out, and the sun will rise from the west. So this will still be, so this is prior to the souls being taken.
Okay.
So the sunrise and the creature will come out prior to the wind, the breeze that comes and takes away the souls.
Oh.
Okay? I just mentioned it because it was from the same hadith that came with it. Okay. Now the last sign, so how many we mentioned so far? So we talked about Isa ibn Maryam, we talked about the smoke, and we talked about
The job.
the Jed, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, the sun,
The sun.
the creature, and the last one is the fire. The fire that tahshur, right? That will gather the people to where the mahshar, the ground of resurrection is going to happen. So this is actually the last sign. This is the last one that will happen. Okay, this is the last. Now, some of these other stuff we might not know the order necessarily, but we know this is the last one that's going to happen for sure. And obviously we know that Isa ibn Maryam will be prior to that, and then obviously the smoke that will be happening, the Isa ibn Maryam, Ya'juj Ma'juj will be before that, and then when followed by when exactly how long, the sun and the creature. The last one is the fire.
Fire starts from Syria?
From Yemen.
From Yemen.
And so this is mentioned by the Prophet obviously, that it is it comes from the Yemen, and it tahshur, which means almost gathering, right? Hashr, which means like a huge gathering, like such a large number of people. So it's just gathering people from, they're going to come out, it's going to gather all the people left to Hashem. And then the Prophet ﷺ even described the three different, he said, يُحْشَرُ النَّاسُ عَلَى ثَلَاثِ طَرَائِقٍ, right? They will be grouped in three different categories. One is راغبين راهبين. Okay, so راغبين راهبين, which means a group of them are راغبين, which means desire and hope that maybe they'll be rescued. راهبين, afraid of not being rescued. So they kind of knew that this was going to happen. So they're kind of waiting if it's going to happen. And then the other category, and he says, وَاثْنَانَ عَلَى بَعِيرٍ, so these are the people who are mounting, because they're riding. So he said, اثنان على بعير, وثلاث على بعير, وأربعة على بعير, وعشر على بعير, which means that there'll be 2 on a mount, which means a camel. There'll be 3 riding on a mount, 4 on a mount, and 10 on a mount. So this tells you that the number of mounts available will be little, small. People are just trying to, ride them. But it also will tell you that some people are well off and they're able to use their mounts and kind of go all the way. So there are people who are well off and they're able to kind of try to escape the fire. Now the last category are the ones who which means the remainder, the fire will be walking, right? So it will be pushing them. So the Prophet ﷺ described something. He said, "تَقِيلُ مَعَهُمْ حَيْثُ قَالُوا وَتَبِيتُ مَعَهُمْ حَيْثُ قَالُوا." So this fire, qaylula is referring to the kind of noon nap, right? Day nap. They take siesta in Spain, okay? Which is very healthy, by the way. It's good for you to take siestas. But our working hours isn't permitted. Well, I guess you can call it power naps. But it is very good, it's very healthy. Unfortunately, our working system hours doesn't work. But in Spain, they take a break, nap break, and then you go back to work. So it's kind of funny. If you go at that time, nothing's just open, everything's just closed. But anyway, so whenever they take naps, it is there. The beat, which means it will, at night, it will stay wherever they stay. وَتُصْبِحُ مَعَهُمْ, and it will wake with them. وَتُمْسِي مَعَهُمْ, and it will go in the evening with them. This is just an indication. It's called a kinaya. I don't know how to translate kinaya. Can anybody translate kinaya? A symbolic, right? Symbolic resemblance. A metaphor, right? A metaphor. That the fire will be consistently there and ever present. Now, there's a different opinion of what's the purpose of the fire. So the ones who are remaining or walking, or are left behind, is this fire going to burn them? Or is just pushing them and scaring them so that it will collect all of them to a specific place? Both opinions are there. But in the end, yes, we'll know we'll collect them to a specific place. But the ones who don't, are just walking, will they be burnt in it or not? I've read both opinions to some of the scholars. So some said it will be burnt, some others say not. So that's the last one, which is the fire. Now, how many signs are there? Good. Now, this is the time. So that's, well, I know, but I'm not going to mention the last one, which is khusuf, which is the collapsing of the earth. Because we don't have much information about it. But the Prophet said there will be 3 of them. Now, at that time, in Ard al-Mahshar, this is when the horn will be blown. Now, that is the day of judgment. So there's only who are left behind. Are there any believers left behind?
No.
No believers left behind. Right? All the believers have been taken, and just the worst of people. And so this is the day of judgment when the when the horn will be blown. And so essentially what's going to happen is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that this entire creation that we know, in its entire vastness, its magnificence, its complications, whatever we know as it is will cease to exist. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ. That everyone upon it will perish. And literally everything. Mountains. Whatever you want to think about. Planets. The sun. The moon. Everything will completely, absolutely perish. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. That everything will be destroyed except His face. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Now. Okay. So it looks like you're raising your hand. Now, Jay.
the smoke is the one is mentioned in Surah Al-Dukhan.
So we mentioned it. That's one of the signs of the hereafter. That was the first sign you mentioned. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. I'm not going to mention khusuf because it just collapses in the earth. We don't have many details, but just things are like large areas of the earth or the ground will collapse in 3 places.
Animals?
Sorry?
Animals or...
What's wrong with the animals?
When the sun is gone, nobody is there. The sun encapsulates everything.
Well, the fire will drag everybody, right? So, no. The dukhan is one of the signs.
Okay, بس المقصود صوت الدخان هذا
نعم. نعم.
يوم يخشى الناس على
نعم. Now, the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned the nafkh as-sur. Now, sur, we're going to talk about the, well, there's not many details. But when nafkh as-sur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or at least we can finish this. ونفخ في الصور الله سبحانه وتعالى ونفخ في الصور فصعق من في السماوات ومن في الأرض إلا من شاء Allah. Which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that and the horn will be blown and whoever is in the heavens and whoever is in the earth will fall dead except whom He wills. Except whom He wills. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also, He will allow this to happen. Also the Prophet said in the hadith, and he mentions, he says, ثُمَّ يُنْفَخَ فِي الصُّورِ. And so the horn will be blown. فَلَا يَسْمَعُهُ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا أَصْغَى لِيتًا وَلِيتًا. So nobody will hear it except that he will listen. Leet is the side of your neck, which means he will go like this, right? Like, you know, when you want to hear something, what do? When something perks your interest, you hear something, you're like, what? Right? They will do that, right? أَصْغَى لِيتًا وَلِيتًا. وَقَالَ أَوَّلْ مَنْ يَسْمَعُ رَجُلٌ يَلُوطُ حَائِطْ إِبْلِي. So the first one who will hear is the person who is Yalutu, which means he is, how do I describe this? When you have a basin, right, that is meant to, you want to make it smooth. So you put some material on it and chemicals and stuff like that, so that will become smooth. And so this is like a watering basin that is created for his camels. And so the Prophet said, the first one who will hear it, the horn, is the person who is doing that. But he immediately will die, right? And everybody else will die. And the Prophet said, he was indicating another hadith of how fast this will happen, how fast will people collapse when they hear it. And so the Prophet said, and I'm going to narrate the entire hadith, he said that the day of judgment will happen, and then two people would be spreading the piece of cloth between them, right? They're merchants, right? One is trying to sell. So they'll spread it, and so they'll neither sell it nor collect it. So they're just kind of standing there, spread it, and then the day of judgment will happen. They'll hear the trumpet. And the day of judgment will happen, and a man would have gone to milk his whatever camels or whatever the case is, and he'll take that milk and he'll not be able to drink it. And the day of judgment will come, and that person will be trying to yalut, which means smooth in his basin. He would not put the water in it. He will be able to do that. And the day of judgment will come, and a person would take the yarfa, which means he would elevate the piece of whatever he's going to eat, food, right? Put his mouth, and he would not eat it. So you can imagine how fast this happens, right? He's taking it to put, the horn gets blown, he hears it, done. That's it. So the entire creation is ceased to exist. Now we know who's the person blowing in the horn? Israfil. Okay, Israfil, and this is Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. He mentioned that Israfil, and in Halimi, one of the scholars, he narrated the consensus on this, that it's Israfil, but it's most believed that it's Israfil. And then the Prophet ﷺ was mentioning in a hadith of how ready Israfil was for this. Because remember the Prophet ﷺ said that me and the hereafter are sent like this, close in time. Because remember, if we talked about, if you think about the beginning of creation and what is left in the time and relativity, it is like that. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna tarfa sahib al-sur," tarf, which means the site of the sahib al-sur, the owner of the horn. Every time, like, since he was made responsible for it, he was ready, right? مستعد ينظر نحو العرش. He's looking towards the throne. مخافة أن يؤمر. He's afraid that he'll be ordered, right? قبل أن يبتدأ إليه. He's just staring, he's waiting. He's afraid that he'll be ordered before his eyesight would return to him. فكأن عينيه كوكبتين دريتين. As if his eyes are like very piercing stars, lit stars. He's just waiting for them. Another narration, the Prophet said he's in his mouth and he's waiting, he's going like this so that he would go and blow it. So this is the description of Israfil. Now how many which day would this happen? On a Friday. It'll happen on it? Sorry? Yeah, he's ready, because he's in a ready stance. Yes. So he's in a stance that is ready. And this will happen on a... That's Israfil, the angel.
Okay, he's an angel.
Yes, Israfil is an angel.
He's bigger than Jibril alayhi salam.
Debate.
And that's his only job tomorrow.
That is, well, Israfil might have a few other, actually no, that is his job. So Mikael has other jobs, Jibril has other jobs, but this is the person who's in charge of the horn. Now it will happen on a Friday. Now this is straight from the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "خير ويوم طلعت عليه الشمس," the best day that the sun has ever risen upon is Friday. Why? In it, Adam was created. Well, and in it, he entered Jannah. And in it, he was removed out of Jannah. And the day of judgment will not occur except on a Friday. So that's it. Now, how many horns will be blown?
3.
2. Some say it's 3, some say it's 2. One is for the mother and
2 and 3. Both opinions are there, but the majority are 2. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَنُفْخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ نُفْخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنظُرُونَ. Right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the horn was blown, and so and whoever is in the heavens and the earth will fall dead, except whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Then it will be blown again. And then at once they will be standing looking on. So that is the second book. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةُ تَتْبَعُهَا الرَّادِفَةُ. It's another evidence. In the Surah Nazi'at, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day when the blast of the horn will convulse creation, right? تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةُ. There will be convulsions. It will shake the entire ground. تَتْبَعُهَا, followed by الرَّاجِفَةُ. Followed by the تَتْبَعُ الرَّادِفَةُ. Followed by the subsequent. So there's 2. But also the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, he had mentioned, in Sahih, by Abu Hurairah, in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said, بَيْنَ النَّفْخَتَيْنَ أَرْبَعٌ. Between the 2 blowing of the horns is 40. 40. Allahu A'lam. So he said 40. So people asked Abu Hurairah, right? They said, أَرْبَعُونَ يَوْمًا قال أبيض. They said 40, he said maybe longer. He said 40 shahran, 40 months, he said maybe longer. He said 40 sana, 40 years, he said maybe longer. So we really don't know the timing, how long there is between the both horns. But everything will be completely just annihilated. And so, I'm trying to find if there's another hadith that we can mention. Yes. Now there's another hadith, it's a big continuation, right? So the Prophet said, so the first horn, everything will die. And then after the second horn, the Prophet says, Allah would allow a rain to fall, كأنه الطل, right? أو الظل. الطل, which means it's a type of rainfall. فَتَنْبُتُ مِنْهُ أَجْسَادُ. From that rain, watering, the bodies of the people will sprout. Similar how plants sprouts out from the ground. This is how our bodies will sprout from the ground. It will come out. And so it will be blown again, that the souls will come in, and then they're resurrected. I think we'll stop here, inshallah, because we're out of time. We have to do the fiqh class. But we're going to talk about the blowing of the horn, and then the resurrection itself, some of the things what's going to happen onto the earth, the ground of the earth, what it looks like, what's going to happen to the sun, and then the people, how they interact, what they're going to say, and so forth, inshallah.
Angels will also die.
Angels will also die, yes. Everything dies. We'll talk about that next week, inshallah. So this next week will start as the people who will be killed or who will die when the horn is blown. Remember, we said, إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ Allah, right? Except for Allah. So we'll talk about that next week, inshallah.